Everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And I want to talk about a story that maybe you guys aren't familiar with. And about a month or so ago, it was the anniversary of the Guns N' Roses Greatest Hits album. It was actually the 15-year anniversary. It's kind of hard to believe it's been 15 years. But this represented a time in Guns N' Roses history where Axl, Slash, and Duff reunited, well, sort of, before the Guns N' Roses reunion we all know about, which came 12 years later. So nobody really expected a Guns N' Roses Greatest Hits album to be the massive success that it turned out to be. Sure, it was going to sell a lot of copies, but with little to no promotion and no interviews being done by the current and former band members, people thought it would fade away into obscurity after a release, which maybe would chart on the Billboard charts for a couple weeks. Now, what's going to surprise you guys is that Axl, Slash, and Duff all agreed that it should never have been released from the start. In fact, the album was released during the band's low point in their relationship with Geffen Records, or more specifically, Axl's low point in his relationship with Geffen Records. His Chinese Democracy was nowhere near in sight, and the label it basically pulled all funding for the long-delayed record. Now, the record label, who was Geffen, who had merged with Interscope, decided, hey, Axl isn't delivering, so let's release the greatest hits package and try to recoup some of our money. And up to that point in time, Chinese Democracy had cost the label a reported $14 million in production costs. Now, Geffen would end up sending Axl a letter stating having exceeded all budgeted and approved recording costs by millions of dollars. It's Mr. Rose's obligation to fund and complete the album, not Geffen's. So the album would end up being released on March 23rd, 2004, and would mark the first release from the band since the underwhelming Live Air album, which came out about 4 years prior. Now, the album was almost delayed a couple days before it was supposed to come out. And that was due to the fact that Axl, Slash, and Duff were able to get a temporary restraining order, or at least they tried to, against Geffen from releasing the record. So why didn't Axl, Slash, and Duff even want the record to be released? So a statement that Axl put out, I believe through his lawyer, said founding member W. Axl Rose is concerned that not only will their audience be misled into believing that the planned compilation is an authorized release, but that it will also hinder the release of the band's long-awaited new studio album, referring to Chinese Democracy. The statement also went on to say that the track selection was, as they put it, fundamentally flawed and does not reflect the band's best work. The press release also noted that fans had flooded the offices of Geffen Records senior executives with thousands of emails over the last few weeks expressing their dissent, and even an online petition was started by fans on Here Today Gone to Hell expressing dismay with the song selection, with some fans saying that there are stronger tracks in their catalog that are not included, and arguing that such a release could cannibalize the sales of Chinese Democracy. So Axl, Slash, and Duff also argue that the band had not been given the opportunity to approve the choice of songs, the artwork, the release date, or the remastering done on the tracks included on this compilation. So as I said earlier, Axl, Slash, and Duff filed a temporary restraining order to stop the release of the Greatest Hits package just days before it was released in March of 2004, arguing that the label had no right to issue remastered versions of their songs without their approval. However, a California judge disagreed and found no evidence that the songs were altered or were marketed as being altered or remastered, and that the release would not cause any financial loss to Guns N' Roses or hinder the sales of Chinese Democracy. And the judge also ruled that not releasing the record could cause financial loss to Geffen's parent company, given how much money they had spent on marketing at this point. The judge also found that the members of the partnership, including Axl, Slash, and Duff, were notified of the release in January of 2004. Now, a Universal Music spokesperson would go on the Today Show, or at least tell the Today Show, that the lawsuit that the former members and Axl had basically filed against Geffen was meritless, and the album was going to be released as scheduled. Now, when the album would finally be released, there were no liner notes to speak of, and there was no deep cuts on the album, including Rocket Queen, Coma, Estranged. But the Greatest Hits album would go on to sell more than 6 million copies, and it finished 2004 as the 10th biggest selling album worldwide. Even though Axl, Slash, and Duff were on the same side in terms of the litigation, the duo of Slash and Duff apparently never spoke to Axl through the entire lawsuit period. And it probably also didn't help that at the same time, Slash and Duff had sued Axl over the control of Guns N' Roses' past songs. So in that lawsuit, Duff and Slash claimed that Axl basically doesn't have any controlling interest in the songs, but they say he killed deals that would have put their tunes in at least half a dozen movies, including Just Married, We Were Soldiers, Death to Smoochie, and Old School. And you won't hear the band's huge hit Welcome to the Jungle in the movie Black Hawk Down because according to the lawsuit, Axl wouldn't let the producers use it. Instead, he wanted to re-record it, thereby allegedly cheating his ex-bandmates out of licensing fees, the lawsuit read. And even at that time, Axl had another lawsuit going on. So Axl had sought a court injunction against the release of the album titled Hollywood Rose, The Roots of Guns N' Roses, by Los Angeles-based independent record label Cleopatra Records. So the 5 original tracks were purchased by Cleopatra from guitarist Chris Webber in November of 2003, who performed on the record and who paid for the recordings back in 1984, according to Blabbermouth. So in 2004, the LA Times interviewed Billboard's charts editor Jeff Mayfield, who said the following about the lawsuit and the Greatest Hits album. He said, patching up their differences only long enough to try to stop this album from coming out may have just served to draw more attention to it and may have helped market it, he said. He said to a degree they'll have to start over with the group. Mayfield added that the prospect of a comeback, there would be some people, Axl faithful, who would buy a new studio album on faith, but I think it's been a long time and older fans of the band may have moved on to other stuff. Now, the Greatest Hits album would enter the Billboard charts at number 3 in 2004, and in March of 2012, almost 8 years later, around the time that Guns N' Roses were being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the album showed up back on the charts again. It also helped that the album was on sale for just 25 cents via Amazon and Google Play, and this would extend its streaks on the Billboard charts for over 400 weeks. So with the success of the Greatest Hits album, you think the record label would have maybe released a best of compilation. And in fact, a couple of years after it came out, rumors started to surface that Geffen was planning a best of compilation with sites like Amazon showing listings for pre-orders, but those rumors were quickly shot down. And sadly, at the end of the day, the Greatest Hits album is just basically just that. It's a Greatest Hits collection showcasing the band's most commercially successful songs, and that's basically it. So that does it for today's episode, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the Greatest Hits album. Personally, I feel really disappointed because it doesn't showcase the band's best work, but a Greatest Hits album, like I said, is just the most commercially successful songs, not the band's best songs. So let me know your comments down below, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and go check out gnrcentral.com for the latest Guns N' Roses news. Take care.